Welcome to The Leap with Japa, the podcast that bridges continents and connects stories. Join us as we dive into the vibrant world of international education, explore diverse cultures, and share the extraordinary journeys of students far from home. Whether you're dreaming of studying abroad or already embarking on this adventure through other means, Leap with Japa is your companion in navigating the exciting, challenging, and transformative world of global education. Let's leap into today's episode. Hello, welcome to this week's episode. It's going to be another interview, this time with another software engineer that I helped with his journey. Wanted to just give you another heads up with the episode, the quality. I had this issue with, it has a hollowness to the episode. During editing I tried to make it sound better, but this is the best I could do. So enjoy it. Thank you very much for being on this journey so far. Next interview series would be a 3-part series, so this is going to probably be the last time you will hear me apologize for this, because I switched softwares. So the previous ones I used StreamYard, this one is a new software, so this is probably going to sound much better. So thank you very much for bearing with me with these the last 2 interview and the quality in terms of the recording of the interviews. I hope you enjoy this as much as I enjoy doing this, and thank you very much for your continued support. And here is this week's episode. All right, Thomas, good afternoon from, it's kind of evening here from California. Yeah. How are you doing in Arizona?
Yeah, Arizona is nice, chilled and calm, and the most beautiful weather.
Okay. You've been staying there how long now?
6 months. I moved there in June, so
moved there in June. 6 months. So, and that means you are fully, what do they call you people? Arizonians or?
Arizonians, yeah.
Arizonians. Are you in Phoenix? What part of Arizona are you?
I'm in the Scottsdale area.
Scottsdale. Oh, Scottsdale, yeah. Arizona. Okay, good. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for doing this. I felt your experience was going to be very beneficial to international students that live currently in the US, and also potential international students. And since I was kind of part of your journey, I felt that it would be a good way to get people to hear your story, as well as to give them tips on, how you navigated the very interesting pathway as an international student. So give us your background, tell us what you do currently, and let's go. Let's get to meet you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. My background a little bit. I started with electrical engineering as my first degree.
Okay.
I wanted to do electrical engineering because I felt I needed some challenging courses to do and to get like a stable job out there. This was when I was in Nigeria, so I was so focused on trying to be the best in my class. So towards my final year, before I graduated, that was when I met Dr. Said, and around that period I was curious how programming works. I was electrical engineering. All I do was memorize all the code that we did in class, and I passed. Right. I just didn't understand what I was memorizing. So I think at the time, my elder brother introduced me to Said, and he was like, "Oh, meet Said. He's a very smart guy. He's a software engineer and stuff." So I became so curious, okay, I must kind of learn what software engineering is about. And
that's how my journey. What year was this?
This was 2017.
2017. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a long time. Yeah, 8 years. so that was when I.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was when I picked up interest in programming, and I started with Python, of course, on YouTube. I didn't have money to pay for any subscription. So I just went to YouTube, which programming language should I learn first? Just started just by Googling things. And before you know it, I started learning Python. And that's when I met Brasaid along the way physically. And I tried to talk to him, but I was scared. I didn't know how to talk to him.
We met physically in 2017? Was that?
On Omole side in church.
When was that?
Yeah, Omole side in church.
Well,
that place.
I know we met in church, but 2017, I was not in Nigeria. So
it was that same period. Because I know during my job when I started, I was still in period. But Henry has been telling me about you during that period. And I was like, okay. I'll meet him and stuff like that. But when I started coming to the church, I met you.
So this is the church for everyone. Listen, this is a church back in Lagos, Nigeria. His brother Henry was the one that introduced me to Education USA. So that's the connection. So I met I met your elder brother, who told me that there was this thing that the US Embassy did, and I almost didn't believe it that it existed, and I joined Education USA. So he was instrumental in getting me to Education USA, which then eventually helped me, and that was 2014. So
nice.
Yeah, so that's why I said the timeline is kind of interesting, because 2017 I just graduated from Prairie View. So I know we met briefly, probably then in 2014, 2015.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the timeline. But yeah. So how did you decide to study in the US?
Yeah. At the time, I didn't know much about traveling and go to study in the US. All I knew was I wanted to be a software engineer. I wanted to be as good as a good programmer, like the people that I know, like Brad and the rest. So I started learning programming, and then I applied to companies in Nigeria to work. But before that, I just tried to find a way to prove to companies that I am actually interested in programming. So what I did was I just worked on multiple projects on YouTube, Google it, simple projects with this language. Just built all of them, uploaded them to GitHub. Even though the code I wrote were word for word what was on YouTube, but that was like a good learning experience. So I applied to companies, and then some companies took me. I think internship at the time took me, and I worked there as an intern first. Then after the internship, I became a full staff. When I was there, I knew that there was something missing. I jumped from electrical engineering to YouTube programming, and then I'm a developer. So I knew that there was something missing in between. I can't just be writing code without understanding what I'm doing. So it was this kind of theoretical knowledge and practical knowledge. So all I knew was practical because I was just seeing code. But there were some lines behind to understand how programming works before you can even solve a problem. So that was when I became more vested in actually trying to be a software engineer and go to the US. And that's when the mentorship with Brasaid started. Then I started reaching out to him. As I see, I know I write software engineering. I started writing Java because I heard you like Java and stuff like that. So I was trying to ask for advice, and you were like, why not just come and do your master's abroad? I'm like, I don't have the money. And you were like, why not check out the USC, try and do your research? Like, you don't need to have the money to come and study abroad. There are so many ways you can do it and get funding to come and study abroad.
Correct.
So I was kind of slowing down, lagging, taking my time. And before you know it, I noticed that it became heavy in my mind that I need to do this. So I visited that same Education USA. I just had an understanding, a run of how everything is going to go if I'm going to go study abroad. So I just use that to get a path, because I'm someone who, if I'm going to work on something or go into something, I like to see how the destination is like before I start. So I kind of envisioned the roadmap before starting, and that's what I did. So I went to Education USA because I wanted to have clear view of how to start, what are the requirements. on how to go about this without breaking the law or missing any points. I did that, and I came back to Basaid, started asking questions. So should I apply to? I even started with applying to Stanford, MIT, Harvard.
Right.
Basaid was, it's good for those schools, but it's important you highlight getting into the US, and then when you get to the US with your skill sets, you can succeed in America. You don't need to be the best in the world to be there, but you have to have a strategy and a map to follow to succeed. So that's how I started journey of trying to practice schools abroad. Yeah.
So how instrumental was the mentorship for you? And how did the mentorship help shape your journey?
Yeah, the mentorship was very, very instrumental because it's easier for you to walk a path that somebody you trust already walked, and because Brad Said already did something and I saw that it worked for him, all I needed to do was not to create my own path. I just asked him, what is your template? Which school did you go to? I go to that school. Yeah. I was just trying to ask questions let me do what you did. If it worked for you, I will do what you did before
which is the same thing I did. It worked for someone that also did the exact same thing that I did. So that is the reason why I was kind of adamant that you follow this path, because there are lots of paths you can take.
Yeah.
But if it's something that has been tried and trusted, why not just do the same thing? It's not So how was that journey for you?
Yeah, it was good. It was good because it made it easier for me to know my next step, basically.
Right.
So knowing that I'm following somebody's footsteps, if I get stuck, all I need to hey, I'm trying to do this. I know during your time you did something like this. Is it the same? If yes, I proceed. If not the same.
But to be fair, you didn't start out that way.
I didn't. I was kind of stalling though.
You went to another school initially.
Oh yeah. It was.
Tell us about that because it's all part of the experience. Tell us about the experience. Tell us the process by which you then changed schools. A lot of people just always assume that I'm stuck with this school forever. I cannot change. But you did it. You navigated that. So just tell us about how you when you came in, and this question would jump into the next phase of adjusting academically and culturally. So tell us about that initial first school you came into and why you decided to switch.
Okay, that makes sense. So that was during the COVID period when I started my application. So at the time, I knew that Brad Said went to Prairie View, and I also wanted to go to Prairie View, but the school was demanding that I write TOEFL and all the rest. And it was COVID. There was no place to write it. And Brad Said was on the emphasis of apply to schools who have funding. And if you're going to apply to schools that have funding, that you should target the professors and get funding there. So Prairie View was there, but they were asking me for stuff that I don't have. Then I tried on that school in Oklahoma State University. At this one, because of the COVID, they kind of waived most of the TOEFL and stuff. I was able to prove to them that I was taught with English, so I don't need to write the exam. And I showed them my resume, told them the name of my school. I went to the website to find if my school was taught in English, which was accredited. So I submitted the documents to them that my school was taught in English. So they approved and gave me the admission to come to the US with hope that I was going to get funding, because some of the professors offered that they were going to give me funding after one semester if they see my performance. If I'm academically good, they'll give me the funding. And that was how I got the admission to come to the US. I didn't start with Prairie View, so I started with Oklahoma State University to start my education. And one of the reasons why I switched was because of the availability of funds. Right. So they kept on getting the scholarship and the funding. They said, maybe next semester. And I know that if I keep on doing that, I'm going to accrue debt myself.
Right.
So that's when I reached out to Brasaid again, like, see, I want to go to your school now. Like, since that school has money, I want to switch. Right. So I switched after one semester. I switched to Prairie View, basically. And that's when the journey became smooth.
Okay. So what were the major adjustments that you had to make culturally and academically? What was different from your Nigerian experience? Everyone goes, "Oh, I went to Nigeria. It can't be that hard to study in the US." I mean, if I can get through a Nigerian school, I can get through a US school very easy. It's not different. I'm just gonna get all A's. What was that adjustment that you had to make academically first?
Yeah. Okay. One thing I would say is, if you graduated from a university in Nigeria, you are very smart. You're actually smart. So one thing I learned here was about how easy it is to interact with the professors.
Okay.
They are actually humans. They are very convenient to talk with. And in my own experience, I was kind of comfortable discussing any topic with them.
Okay.
If I have a hard time understanding a topic, I reach out to the professor. He's willing to discuss it with me. So that kind of encouraged me to actually be on top of my game all the time. Okay. And that actually, and I noticed also the way the school is structured, they are focused on what you need and not the irrelevant things. If I said I'm studying computer science, their focus is mostly around things that will help me choose a path towards the end of my course. So it was kind of well crafted and stuff. So the reason why I said if you finish Nigeria school, you're very smart is the grading system here and the way you take your exams in the US is quite different from how it works in Nigeria. In Nigeria, you have to memorize all the formulas. Over here, you don't have to memorize the formulas. You just need to understand how to apply it.
Right.
And that's one thing that made this kind of convenient and easier to study. Basically, yes, you still have to study, but studying became fun because of memories. You have to find practical applications to understand this better.
Okay. Sounds good. What about culturally? What was the initial cultural shock? What is the biggest cultural shock for you when you got here? I mean, you lived in Minnesota, you lived in Texas, now you're in Arizona. What exactly has been the biggest shock for you?
I would say one because my younger brother and I then we like watching American movies because we are fascinated by the English sounding. So we got used to. We started watching American movies because we were fascinated by how they sound.
Okay.
How they pronounce aura and stuff like that. So we're always watching movies. So when I came here, I wasn't shocked on the language bias because I understood everything they were saying because I've watched so much movies.
Right.
And the shock in general for me is lifestyle, basically. Okay. I'm very Nigerian. I'm very Nigerian. Try to find the cheapest way to be. Very conservative as well. As in people, you come to class, I'm always careful because I've heard of so many things. And even before coming, I was scared of coming to America for some reason. I thought that there's going to be some kind of some kind of racism and stuff like that. But coming here, I discovered that if you mind your business and do your thing right, in my experience, you're good to go. So some of the shocks will just be maybe cultural differences of how very conservative I am. Right. I'm very respectful. I don't call people by their first name. I always put start. No, just call me this. I'll be like, my mom teach me, but we're good.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about your internship. I know you did an internship at Twitter. Just walk us through how you got that internship and what the internship was like.
Okay. Yeah. So, like I said, before I started journey, I used to have like a roadmap of my sense of direction. Mm-hmm. And this was the time while I was coming up with that roadmap, I was always constant call with Brasaid almost every day. Like I was actually stressed. I felt at the point I felt like I was stressing in because I was always not like what's next thing. So in my roadmap, I even before coming, I knew that I had to find a way to get some of an internship. Right. And according to everything I've understood so far, your internship is your gateway to get a full-time job.
Correct. Yeah.
So the process of applying for internships, I started by applying to so many companies. I was at this point I want to get as many companies as I can, then I can decide eventually. And towards the end of towards the summer period, I discovered that I didn't have any internship, so I had to change my strategy. And that strategy was because I was so focused on trying to apply to companies that were far. So what I then did was I said, okay, you know what? I'll apply to both companies because all I just need is experience. Right. So I can apply full-time eventually. So I started applying to all sorts of companies, whether they were filing or not. And that's getting the first offer, Sony Ericsson. So because I now got the first offer, it was now easier to apply for a second one and negotiate for filing, basically. Yeah. So that was my own strategy. So I had to make sure that I have something at hand that I can use in my industrial experience. So while I have that industrial experience, then in the future, I will then bank on that, I have a US experience and I can apply for a full-time job outside. I applied to multiple companies, negotiating better with filing and stuff. That's when I got my internship at Twitter. So I took Twitter because they were willing to do everything for me at the time, compared to the first companies, because I had about 5 offers. So I had to pick Twitter because they were willing to land with everything I was looking for.
So what were the offers? Tell us.
Okay, I got Sony first. Then I got General Electric, GE. Then I got Salesforce. Then I got one other company. I can't remember the name, but I didn't accept it because it wasn't. Since if you have Salesforce, you have GE, you have Sony Ericsson. So I didn't see the need to continue with the rest. Then Twitter was the last one. So I had to decide between Salesforce and Twitter. And I remember reaching out to you then, which one should I go for, Salesforce or Twitter? And you were like, look at you debating on which company to take. So that was the companies I got.
So you would advise that, go for as many offers and then make sure you are the one that is making that choice and not that making the choice for you.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Sorry. I applied to 150 companies and I reached out to you that I've applied to 150, but nobody's responding. And you chuckled and you're like, you applied to 400 per time. So I was like, what? Then I applied as much as possible and I even created an Excel sheet of all the companies I've applied for, their status, what happened, what went wrong, to keep track of everything. I applied to over 500 companies basically, and eventually 5 of them were successful.
So roughly 10% not 10%, 1% got back to you. So
1%, yeah.
So what was your internship experience? What was it like?
Yeah, it was my first experience in the US, and it was very, very interesting because all the engineers at Twitter, I would say, are very intelligent, very smart. I felt intimidated at first, because I don't know the background. All I just know that these people are extremely intelligent. But it was a very humbling experience because I had the opportunity to learn from them. I've learned so many things that I currently use at American Express from them because the engineers there they know what they're doing. So that's when I started understanding the idea of everything I've learned in school. Because basically, when I was in school, in my master's program, I was learning so many things that was bridging the gap between the theory and practical law. So when I got to Twitter, it was easier for me to begin to pick up everything. Like, oh, this is what I learned so far and stuff. And the engineers were patient and nice, and they were always ready to help with the code. So it got to a point that I am no longer scared of code because I know that I can always ask an engineer and they'll help me. So that challenged me to actually try to solve a problem. before reaching engineers. And so, yeah, they were very, very instrumental in my understanding of practical application of writing code and deploying it and seeing it happen live, and stuff like that. That's kept me so encouraged. And yeah.
So, were there any form of, before I ask about challenges, what kind of, how important was networking, both at during your internship, and how did that experience of networking in your internship translate to helping you get a job at American Express?
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's a very good one. So there are so many people who are actually very intelligent in this world, but sometimes networking is what keeps you apart from the rest of the world.
Right.
So during my time at internship, during my time at Twitter, I was very close to my manager.
Okay.
And what the manager liked about me was how curious and inquisitive I was. I kind of demonstrated that I really want to be mentored.
Okay.
I demonstrated that I really want to be mentored. So she could see the burning desire of learning. She constantly checks my LinkedIn and see the kind of things I post. So I kind of demonstrated that I want to learn and enlighten people and stuff like that. Even writing at the time, writing on blogs, try to show people all that I've learned. So that was one way that I used to solidify my understanding. Anything I understand, I go about it on LinkedIn or on blogs and stuff like that. So my manager was seeing all those things I never knew until I got the offer at Twitter and then started conversing. And she told me that she's ready to help me and mentor me to become a better engineer, and which she did. The right way to ask questions as a software engineer, the right way to write an email requesting for something. She taught me all these things basically during my stay at Twitter, and while the engineer taught me how to master writing my code at Twitter. So that was
that's how effective it was. So how did you transition from student, or shall I say intern, to a professional? Was there did you just use the same strategies? How did you land your role at American Express?
Okay, yeah. I mean, I would say everything is kind of interrelated, both my experience at Twitter, my networking, and down to American Express. So while I was at Twitter, I was supposed to be retained as a full staff, but we all know the story. Twitter is now X.
Elon Musk bought it and then it became X. So all right, RIP to Twitter, but that was a period you were there. They were not. I wasn't even sure if she was going to have a job.
Yeah, she hasn't even left the company. She left the company. I didn't know. I was still hoping that I would reach out to her, hey ma'am, we discussed this, and before I knew it, I checked her LinkedIn. She was no longer on Twitter. So that's how oh wow. But I still reached out to her because she was very kind and helpful during my internship. So she was putting in words for me and recommendations to companies.
Okay.
That is how much we've become so close. She was reaching out to people, top people on LinkedIn and companies that she knows, trying to make sure that I get an offer there. And that was because I was kind of very close with her when it comes to networking and learning. So she saw it as I really want to help Thomas to be better. So it was easier for her to refer me to people, stuff like that. That would have been possible if we didn't build a good relationship. So he referred me to so many companies, GitHub and all those top companies and stuff.
Right.
Okay. I eventually got a job at Amex. And some of the things that I learned from Twitter is about you're optimizing your code to be better.
Okay.
So during my interviews that I had at American Express, so most of the questions that they asked were mostly things around these normal lead code questions, algorithm and lead code questions and stuff like that. So those are most of the questions they asked. And it's not just about writing the code sometimes, it's about actually writing an optimized code, basically. And those are some of the things I picked while I was at Twitter. And I was able to, as the long and short, I was able to go through the 4 phases of interview. And I got the offer.
So what were the phases? Just define the phases so that people would know what you have to do, and why your skills mattered in getting these things. Because you don't know anybody at American Express. You literally have yourself and your skills and an interviewer. So tell us the phases.
Okay, yeah. So the first phase was basically a recruiter reaching out to me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And she was like, "Oh, I'm impressed with your skills. I've seen everything you do, your posts and your experiences at Twitter. We are interested in speaking to you." So that was the part of the first phase. So the first phase was just recruiter trying to find out if I'm a great fit for the company based off my experiences and what I've done at Twitter, and to see if I can fit in. And the funny thing is that they also referenced my experience at InterSwitch when I was in Nigeria.
Okay.
I was surprised. I thought they would focus on US only, but they were interested in overall experience of what I have. So I was able to discuss that phase, which was the first phase, which is what most people always pass.
Right.
The second phase is always a lead code question. So they will ask you lead code question. I say lead code question because most of the structures are similar to the questions they ask in lead code.
Right.
And mind you, before these interviews, I always practice solving at least one question a day. But sometimes I finish one question. I end up solving one question in 2 days.
Right.
But what is important is there's progress. Progress. I discovered that the more I get myself conversant with solving lead code questions, the more easier it is to answer any algorithm data structure questions, basically.
Right.
So I did my second interview, which is algorithm and data structure questions. So I was able to scale through and stuff like that. I passed the second stage. Then on the third stage, I had two engineers based in American Express interview me on Zoom, Zoom call. They were two. Okay. I did that one as well. So the question they asked as similar, they're familiar. So the advantage of solving so many problems is that a time will come where you begin to see patterns.
Yes. Yeah, that you see that they're repetitive patterns, and then even if you have not seen the question before, you're able to hack and get into the pattern. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. One of the most specific pattern is actually called 75 blind lead code question. So somebody, one of the engineers on Facebook, came up with a structure and said, okay, if you can solve these 75 questions, then you'll be able to solve any algorithm questions, basically. So I just quickly took that 75 question and focused on them and tried to learn their pattern and stuff. So that's how it became easier for me to any lead code questions. Yeah, I still learn every day, basically. But most of the questions they asked, I was familiar with them. And the good thing about solving those questions is that you don't really need to know it back to back, and know the code word for word.
Yeah.
You have to kind of demonstrate some kind of understanding that know how to solve this problem. So that's why in solving an algorithm question, it's important you show the interviewer they understand the question and that you have a solution before writing your code. So there are some techniques I had to follow on how to answer interview questions. That was what I did. So I followed. I watched so many interview questions, and I also, I think at the time, I started to interviews with some companies. I had to ask him what kind of questions did they ask, what should I expect. So I was kind of prepared on the kind of questions they would ask, and so it was easier for me to discuss them and build solutions with the engineers. I don't need to give them code. To build the solution with engineers. So it made me more comfortable and confident. That was my third stage. The fourth stage was a behavioral interview, basically. So the moment I saw that I passed the stage, I was a bit confident, I passed the coding one. That means behavioral should be easy. So I did the behavioral interview and stuff like that. So that was kind of on the chill side. Then there was a final one that was supposed to do with management. That would determine if I would get the offer or not. So they scheduled the interview during NSB. NSB is a National Society of Black Engineers. So I reached out to them that, sorry, I won't be available on this time. I'll be at NSB. And they were at NSB, you are going to be there as well. And the reason why I was at NSB was because I knew that one of the ways to get a good job in America, is to attend all these event conferences and career fairs. Attend them and sell yourself, basically. So I was ready. So I was even open telling them that I'll be an SB. So they were like, oh, if you're going to be an SB, our company will be there. Why not go there and we'll interview your final phase there?
Final phase there. Okay.
So I already had a pending interview even before.
Which is always the best strategy.
Yeah. So at the time, I didn't know it was going to be linked. They were interviewing me separately as an experienced engineer. But eventually, I landed in SB. And when I got to SB, of course, I interviewed to many other companies. But my focus was American Express because I knew I've gone through 4 phases. Just that last one remained and stuff. And I got to SB. I did my final interview with the VP, who is like a very nice mentor to me as well. So the VP interviewed me, both algorithm and so many things.
We gave you another technical question.
3 technical questions.
After you've been through 2 phases already.
Yeah, I had to explain to him at some point, like, sir, I've done like 4 years. He said, I know, let's do it again. Whiteboard right in front of him. There was a whiteboard there. He gave me a marker, said, solve this question and stuff. Like I said, once you're familiar with most of the questions, it's easier for you to come up with a solution. And I was not afraid to ask questions, like, say, solve this. I will always ask questions like, this is my approach. What do you think?
Right.
Because some people just jump into giving solution. But I tell you my approach first. If it says not too good, I'll think of something else. They're actually very kind and patient to help. So that was how I landed it in American Express. Yeah.
So based on your experience, what advice would you give to current international students and also prospective students aiming for a successful career in the US?
Okay, cool. Yeah, it depends on your field, basically. So in my own field, which is like computer science, I try to like keep my skills updated and up to par. Okay. So I try to like keep good networking, especially on LinkedIn, Handshake. I try to stay connected with all of them as well. Okay. So one thing I would advise is if you're going through the route of computer science or computer information technology or any tech related something, I would say try to like keep your skills updated and also stay connected with people. In as much as you think that staying connected on LinkedIn is not helpful, actually they do watch what you post, basically. Right. So if you demonstrate some kind of curiosity and zest and how you post and things that you learn, probably you can pick up the attention of somebody else who is actually viewing you. And if you are in the route of software engineering, know that personally, Let's Code, practice question on Let's Code. Okay. At the beginning, it's kind of intimidating, basically. It's intimidating because you can't have one question. But like Elon Musk always say, time box yourself. Time box yourself. You see a problem, time box yourself. Say, I'm giving myself, for example, 30 minutes to solve this. If I can't solve it, find a solution. Right. So I time box yourself, try to solve the problem. If you see it's not working, just switch to the solution, understand what you did, and try to redo that same thing again within that same time box. So if you want time boxing yourself for each of your self-improvements, before you know it, you become proficient in how to solve problems. This is the route of engineering. That's correct. So
last question. So reflecting on your entire journey now, how do you feel about the decision to leap to the US? And what does this experience mean to you now?
Yeah, it's a very life-changing, basically. Okay. Yeah, I've enjoyed every bit of my journey, both the struggling part and the successful part, basically. Okay. So the reason why I appreciate the struggling part as well is that if there was no challenge along the way, if there was no challenges along the way, right, I don't know how I'll appreciate the success. So the struggle is part of the success, actually. And it has been an amazing journey. And having friends like Brased who will encourage you when I was halfway, like, why did I come here? I have to go back to Nigeria. You have to hang in there, brother. You have to hang in there. Just be done with your school first. Then we can talk about the rest, And it was kind of encouraging to have people ask questions, to reach out to just to feel encouraged. Because knowing that you have no family here is the beginning of depression.
Right.
The first 2 weeks in America, I was crying because I was not used to being on my own.
Yeah.
No family, no friends. I was crying and stuff like that. But over time, I started understanding that to grow, actually, you have to be away from your comfort zone.
Yeah.
So I started by being away from the comfort zone, growing, always try to be in touch with my family in Nigeria so I don't feel like I'm lost. Friends, family praying for me and stuff, and just staying and obeying the laws, basically, to thrive. But yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for sharing. I don't want to take too much of your time. I know you have one or two code bases to look at, or some CI/CD loop to complete, or some ML ops things to flesh out. But I wanted to say thank you for taking out some time of your precious time to speaking with our podcast today. I wish you very well. I hope to bring you for further interviews, probably around things like how do you grow where you are. So what have you done differently? Did you get a promotion and things like that? So that we can walk through, so that people can learn through the lens of people that are in the system, as opposed to just reading a blog somewhere like, someone wrote this. So I will be disturbing you for further episodes.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
All right,
it's a pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Leap with Japa. I hope it brought you valuable insights and stories that resonate with your journey. If you have any thoughts to share, questions, or want to send a voice note with your feedback, please visit our website at leapwithjapa.io. You will find a contact form there. I would love to hear from you and feature your voice in a future episode. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform, some of which are Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Player FM. Your subscriptions and reviews help us grow and reach more listeners, and I truly appreciate each one of them. Also, check out our merch store on leapwithjapa.io website for some cool t-shirts and hoodies. Perfect for showing your support for the show. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll dive even deeper into the experiences and challenges of international education and careers. Until then, keep leaping forward, and thanks again for being part of the Leap with Japa community.